you won't go after the things which are illusory, which are all the things that are appearing on that presence. You know yourself without the body consciousness, without the body feeling. Through mantra, you'll experience times where you're not feeling yourself, where you're not connected to this body consciousness and body knowledge. You'll just feel just this peace, this sense of presence, and you're knowing that sense of presence. The body is the instrument to do this. So you remain with that sense of presence that can only be felt through body form, that the body is only an instrument for. You remain with that. Then you know, like cars, job, wife, all these things out here, they're appearing on that spontaneous presence. You know yourself in a real sense, so you're not giving yourself away.
Mm.
One of the images that I really liked in the reading that you sent to us today from the ashram is the mantra is like, you know, he used the image of being in a police station. This criminal is sitting in a chair and they're just pounding him away with this questioning.
Yep.
Trying to get him to say the truth. I thought it was just so true. It's just really, you know, it was really a powerful image, very strong. You know, it's really heavy duty kind of stuff. You know, sticking with it.
Hammering all the time.
Yeah.
You are Brahman. Yes, you are Brahman. You're Atman. You're Paramatman. You're a master. Except your selfless self, nothing is there.
Yeah.
And the mantra is constantly hammering this idea so that you won't be, you know, think about that. If you're put in the police station until you finally confess, okay, I'm Brahman. You know? It's like, but once I confess this, that means I have to behave like a Brahman. You know, if I sit there and I confess, okay, I'm not this body, I'm not John, I'm not this body knowledge, I'm not this body consciousness, I have to behave like that now. The confession has been beaten out of me.
Yeah. Oh, and
we all need to do that.
Keith says, so seeing the body knowledge as passing is to see that I am not that? That's his
question. Yeah, you're aware of your body consciousness because you can view it, you can see it. It appears upon your spontaneous presence. Remember again, and Maharaj said this in the speaking that was today too, mind, ego, intellect are subtle organs that appear along with the body and dissolve along with the body. So these are instruments that they're appearing on your spontaneous presence when you assume that you are a body, that you're holding this body, and that you're somehow this body. Because the body is what the thoughts are flowing, and it says, okay, these are my thoughts, and I am this, and I am a man, and then you start to, all the concepts start building and building and building and building on top of that one thing, I am somebody else. And mantra allows this, again, the formless foundation where nothing can be put at little blocks. If you were to try to put blocks of ideas and concepts and beliefs in air, it wouldn't hold. And that's what you're doing with mantra. When concepts and ideas and beliefs try to stick, they can't stick because you're one with your selfless self. You're one with the mantra. You're no longer responding to the body consciousness and worrying about what's going to happen to this body because you realize that you're using this body. This body is not you.
That is where we're trying to get, or where I'm trying to get.
And mantra, listening to the master, listening to the talks. You know, we're so blessed in this day and age because if there wasn't internet and there wasn't all this stuff, you literally have to go to India. You couldn't
Yeah.
record anything because it was back in the olden days. You have to write down just what you remembered and then constantly try to keep reminding yourself. Now we
Does
have...
Maharaj ever, oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
Does Maharaj ever talk about people that never meet him in person? About, you know, he seems to be casting a wide net.
The book Selfless Self, you will be able to feel your presence. You'll know that you're reading your own story. You'll know that every word that was spoken, you've spoken. You'll recognize this. There'll be a recognition in the projection. When you listen to the video, you'll feel that. Today's video, when I was listening to it off to the side as I was making the little things and all that, you could just feel like, whoa, so beautiful. You know, there's a wave of recognition. And the more that is, and that's what Maharaj says, you have to be spiritually strong. He's making you spiritually strong. You've been given a mantra. And again, like he says too, because I know there are some people who didn't get the mantra right from Maharaj. The mantra, and he says that in the talk today, is to keep the mind busy so that you, the you that you are, can begin to see without these coverings of mind, ego, intellect. You can see cleanly and purely, just keeping the mind busy through all the moments of the day. And Maharaj finished the talk today saying, you know, that with the work that you're doing and all these things, do your job, do your duties, but remain with you. Be with you always. Be with you always doesn't mean only when you're listening to the satsangs, or only when we're on these little conferences, or only when you're sitting for meditation. Be with you always means like always, like all the time. Continuously be with you, refreshing your memories that I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body. Body is not my identity. Therefore, anything that appears in my body consciousness that has anything to do with this body, or any thoughts or ideas related to this body, are false. Because I was not body, I am not body, and I'm not going to remain the body. It's the neighbor's child. And the main thing is just to be with you always, because so many things are out there vying for your attention. And so many positions are able to be taken. But in order to take a position, there has to be a you. And if there's a you, the battle's already lost. That I am somebody else is the creator of all difficulties. That sense of presence that you are, that sense I am, remaining without any quality, then don't allow quality to be added on. What are we saying? Qualities are added on. So if qualities are added on to something, it's quality-less, which means there's no mind, no ego, no intellect. Nothing is there. Responding all actions, spontaneous actions, as Maharaj says. And he talks about, you know, there should be no jealousy, no envy, no hatred, no nothing of this kind. Because in order to do that, you have to separate me from you, and like I'm doing something to you, or can do something to you. The idea is that this is an empty shell. All of these are empty shells. Selfless self is experiencing itself based on the conditioning that it currently believes itself to have in each of these body forms, and that's just one selfless self. And all of these forms, these body forms, are nothing but a factory of gunk from the 5 elements slapped together and fed. That's what we're so proud of, that my gunk is better than your gunk, or that my gunk you know, knows more than your gunk. It's one using the gunk to know itself, and that's it.
There's a in Master Self-Realization, Sri Ramakant speaks about the original shock. You know, when you're brought into the world, there's this incredible shock. You know, all the protection, all, you know, the comfort is just no longer there, and it's immediate. And you know, I had kind of like an experience like that a few days ago. Just that kind of like, it's like what eventually we will face. You know, like Ramakant, when he speaks about, you know, you're not going to remain the body, that shock is going to come. You know, and so I just, when I felt that, it was revolving around certain circumstances, and I know it's all body-based. It really pushed me to just, I mean, like, it was like the only thing to do was, you know, stay steady, was to do the mantra, basically, because there's just so much pressure coming in with different thoughts and so forth that, you know, do not touch that. Don't, you know, don't let it get you, and just go into the mantra. And it, you know, like sometimes you mentioned the fact that sometimes selfless self will turn up the heat. And then it was like really, it got turned up quite a bit. And it did push me into a place where I felt, you know, I'm really all alone, you know, or there's just aloneness. First, it was just you and me. I was like talking to myself, selfless self. It's just you and me. And then I realized there's no me, neither. It's just you. And then all of a sudden it came to mind what, you know, Maharaj speaks about, be with you, you know. It's kind of like, it kind of clicked, and there was just a sense of peace that came.
Yes.
You know, nice. Just kind of like, it kind of came, you know, that shock just kind of evaporated. It was still lingering, but it was broken primarily, you know, so.
Yes.
Yeah, but that, the power of the mantra was just really, you know,
yes.
And again, it's just, I think it goes further than a mantra. It's not giving your attention or giving yourself to that.
Yes.
Those thoughts and so forth. That can
yes.
Get you, yeah.
Yes. The courage, the spontaneous courage is arising. And as you're speaking, yes. Yes. Spontaneous conviction yes, that is remaining with your selfless self, remaining with mantra no matter how much. And like you said, you came to the position of accept your selfless self. Nothing is there. Not even this one that was seeking the selfless self. It's selfless self. Accept your selfless self, nothing is there. And then beginning to carry that into the daily living when the heat gets turned up more and more, remaining with your selfless self, the spontaneous courage, but accept myself, nothing is there. This seems to be happening. These people seem to be all irritating and all this stuff, but accept your selfless self, nothing is there. So it's you performing all these activities and all these duties through body as yourself, only yourself. And yeah, that's very beautiful.
You know, that's, and you know, after that sort of like that peace came, they had a bunch of kids playing next door, like 3, 4 years old, running and screaming and everything. It was just like, that's selfless self enjoying.
Yes.
It was really beautiful to hear those kids, you know, they were just really so full of life and everything. And, you know, it was just,
yes.
You know, just the selfless self just enjoying itself through those children.
Yes. Yeah, I had this similar experience I think I talked about before when I was at the bouncy house with Connor. And all of a sudden it came to me like, okay, mom and dad, and there was a grandma, and now there's these little babies, or, you know, little children, they're all bouncing and having a good time. But it's all selfless self experiencing itself through this body factory that it's created with ideas and beliefs and everything injected in that just for the pure happiness of enjoying yourself. But it's all mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, the kids that are running and playing, all of it is selfless self. The bodies are different, but presence is one. Maharaj points to this all the time. And in your seeing with the children, and you say, oh, that's selfless self-enjoying. Yes, bodies are different, but presence is one. The two little kids in the sandbox throwing sand on one another are the one selfless self experiencing what it's like to be in those little bodies. Each one with its own little imagined world.
And each has its own expression, but the expression doesn't mean that it's separate.
Expression based on conditioning that the selfless self has seen while it's being attached to and believing it's a body. The experiences, so to speak, of the body that you believe you are, that you're taking credit for a time. Once the spirituality sets in and you see that I'm not the doer, then all these experiences can't be mine. Only when I believe that I'm a doer do I believe that all my experiences formed me in a certain way.
Yeah, there's no separation. There's just different expressions. So it doesn't mean that there's separate entities. It just means that there's a variety of expression.
Exactly. Orchestra is the perfect example. You have violins and clarinets and flutes and all of those. None of them are any better or worse than any of the others, and none have a greater part to play or whatever. But when they're all harmonized, when they're all in harmony, it's a perfect symphony. And that's what is going on if you look out your window right now, the perfect symphony. Only when I believe that I'm the flute player and I needed to have more flute notes and, you know, it's not fair that the flute doesn't get as many notes and all this, that's when the separation starts to occur. Otherwise, it's a perfect, beautiful symphony of selfless self enjoying itself.
So I've had a metaphor question that I've that's kind of stumped me for years. So if we use the analogy of electricity, so source, selfless self is electricity, invisible listener, you know, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like a toaster, mm-hmm. right? And when I'm plugged in, this electricity runs through me, and as it does through the blender and refrigerator or dishwasher.
Yes.
Okay. But and that feels very true to me. But I would never say that I'm the electricity. I would say I'm the toaster, because as soon as that plug comes out, there's no juice, right? So how could I say that I'm the electricity?
Well, number one, what you just said is when the plug comes out, there's no electricity, but you are. And in order to know you are, there has to be something there that knows you are. That prior to beingness, before beingness arose, prior to beingness arose on that which was prior to beingness, your own selfless self. So that's how you know you're the electricity and not the different instruments. Plus, there are many different instruments in the kitchen alone, and all of them are just the power is provided. Selfless self is providing the power for all of these instruments. And it doesn't think that the toaster or the refrigerator or anything else, all are just being provided for. It would provide for the chainsaw if you got angry and wanted to saw your table in half. The electricity has no concern as to what's happening with it. And selfless self is that unidentified identity.
But I missed the part where you explained how I would identify with the electricity as opposed to the toaster. That's the part that I miss. I've thought about this for years, and I can't, you know, I'm puzzled.
Well, again, we could say, and we can use the dream if you like. Here you are, you fall asleep, a dream world is created, and you wake up. There's a continuum. The same. Why this analogy with electricity? It's a continuum. In order to know that you are, and to, you know, when you experience yourself in body form, there had to be something where this I am news arose from. Something to identify this I am sense. Otherwise, you couldn't do it. If you were the I am sense, you wouldn't identify that because that's yourself. But there is a knower of this I am that is arising on this formless knowledge, this knowingness. And that's the example of the electricity, because the electricity is running through all these things. Each one of these things can be unplugged. The electricity still is. So let's say you're the toaster, as you say. I unplug the toaster and throw it away, but my refrigerator is still working fine. I buy a brand new toaster. It's working fine. I have the microwave. It's working fine. This current that's flowing through all of these bodies and animating all of these bodies is not dependent on the body. And you know this because what was there when you go to sleep, in deep sleep, in dream, and waking up was one continuous. This whole life that you see and all the things in it is appearing upon spontaneous presence and is illusion that is appearing to the one that is not illusion, that is there. That all of this appears on. Something can't appear on something unless there's a foundation. The substratum, I think, is what Nisargadatta Maharaj calls it. The spontaneous presence. In order for things to appear on that spontaneous presence, there has to be the knower of that spontaneous presence there. There has to be, in order for me to sit there and say, oh, I have the feeling of I am, but I also can have the feeling of not I am. So there's someone having both the feeling of I am and the feeling of not I am. That's the qualitylessness that is not I am. That the I am has appeared on, like a fever.
Okay.
And remember, again, don't give it to mind and work it out and say, oh, that sounds like it's good or it makes sense or it intellectually satisfies you. It's, don't give it to mind. Not
going to happen.
Yeah, you have to, okay, there was a concept there. This concept was shattered with some other concept, basically.
Yeah.
So that concept would no longer bother the mind. There would be a shattering moment just for a split second where your concept with this new concept, they bumped heads and there was a silent, absolute space where you could see and recognize yourself. Because everything is concept that's spoken about, because this is all an illusory world. You're illusory, I'm illusory, everything in this illusory world is illusory. So all the speaking is for nothing other than, in this type of speaking, this concept is presented, this concept is presented, they bash, and you have a moment where you can recognize yourself. And mantra will allow these concepts to slowly, silently, permanently be erased so you can pay attention to yourself in those moments where the concepts clash and just you are. Because you are there prior to the concepts and you'll be there after the concepts. All these concepts, all this world is appearing on your spontaneous presence.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, hold on, the chat came up. I don't have my glasses on, so I'm gonna...
It says, is a mirror apropos? Oh, I guess that's a question. He's asking, is the analogy of the mirror apropos to this discussion?
Again, the mirror is because your reflection, the entire world is the reflection of the spontaneous presence. You're reflecting. That's why Maharaj says it's so very, very important, because spirit is very sensitive. It needs the bhajan. It needs knowledge. It doesn't need to be going, like again, that presentation that Maharaj did today with criminal thoughts or thoughts about nicer cars or better houses or I need more credit cards or it's Christmas and I don't have money or any of that. And even the god and goddesses thoughts, the sattva thoughts. You should be without all of this. And that reflection, the recognition and the projection is like looking at yourself in the mirror and recognizing. Do it with the master's photos. Sit there and look into the eyes of the master and understand that that's very much a mirror, that in that form you were understanding yourself, and that reflection will happen, that recognition and the projection. The entire world is just a reflection based on your ideas and beliefs and concepts that you're filtering this seeing through. You're the seeing without any ideas, beliefs, concepts, or anything. What you see is the seer's projection.
Hey, Jim, do you have your earphones on?
No, I don't. Should I put them on?
Yeah, because there's some background noise.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I got to run downstairs and grab them. Oh, wait. Okay. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
Okay.
Okay, that's a lot more quiet.
Better? Oh, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me? Does this have a microphone on it?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear you fine.
It's
Oh,
fine.
okay. Great. Thank you. So it all comes back to meditation, basically.
Absolutely. And the Maharaj says that all the time. Meditation.
Yeah.
And you have to want it. That's the key thing. You're inviting the attention of the invisible meditator that you are, using this body form in mantra, ceaseless devotion to your selfless self. You have to want it more than anything. You know, I talked about last time we were here, it was do or die. Like there was just something that was like, you know what? Even if this might not be true, I don't care. I'm giving it all up. And there really wasn't the idea that it might not be true, because I knew Ramakant Maharaj had come from Nisargadatta Maharaj, who had come from Siddharameshwar Maharaj, who had come from Balseb Maharaj, and our lineage is just unbelievable. And I was so grateful that somehow, some way, it was in my experience to be carried into this river of our lineage.
Yeah, that is amazing.
You know, with the respect, the bowing, and bowing, you're not bowing to master, you're bowing to selfless self. But once you're doing mantra and you have that recognition and the projection of each one of the masters is myself, I know this, and I bow to selfless self and all the masters of the lineage. And it has to, I think also Maharaj talked about in the talk today that if you're not serious about the meditation, it's not going to do anything. You have to be serious. You have to be wanting to remain with your selfless self, be with the meditation. You have to be with you always. And you have to really, really, really have the ceaseless devotion. Some might even call it fanatical in the beginning, because you don't know exactly, but you're just following the master's instructions. Master says, this is the mantra that's been passed down through the lineage, and you are to do this mantra. You are to sit for a little bit of time. When something in your life is occurring, don't bother about solving the problem. Mantra. When you're uncomfortable in a situation, don't bother about why you're uncomfortable. Mantra. Remain with your selfless self. Because when the mind is busy, you will see that you can move through without the need for a story in form. Are you scuba diving?
What's going on there, Jim?
Sounds like a fist fight.
I know. It's like... Are you alive, though? Hello? Did you just fall down the stairs and we're all making fun of you? That's not good.
I don't know. he's not there.
I know. That's all.
This is.
You hear boom, 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 and then silence. Oh no.
Who are we talking about?
Well,
Good. You're there. I just wanted to make sure you were okay.
Oh no, it's quiet here.
Okay, good.
There's no noise here.
Oh, okay, good.
somebody's pouring water.
Yeah, there's water or something.
Is
Yeah,
that
I heard that. Yeah.
Or you
It's not
drink?
me. It's not coming from me.
Oh, it's not coming from you. Oh, okay.
Okay, maybe Keith.
Well, who might? I don't know. We have 7 participants on. So let's see.
Well, that's good. A lot of people today.
I don't know.
Keith says it's me. Just kidding.
It's me, just kidding. Yeah, I know, because you have no microphone. I don't know. It is like a sound.
Hmm.
Oh
well.
The airwaves.
My cat is
It's
participating,
okay.
so you can't see her.
Is your cat drinking any water?
No, but she is participating. She's an unseen participator.
Ranjit used to always say, forget everything. And that's a challenge. That's really tough to do because, like you want to try to solve a problem or you want to try to figure it out or you want to try to, kind of deal with it in some way or another. But just to forget everything, I mean, even the good things, I guess the mantra is basically a forgetting, just
Yes.
Forget,
You're erasing body knowledge. You're erasing body knowledge, and you're not allowing the attention to go with the body consciousness. That's all you have to do. Because once you see that it's not needed, and that everything goes along quite nicely without you, then you won't do it anymore. And again, that's where you must have complete faith in yourself and faith in the Master. The Master has said, when an issue comes in your life, mantra. You'll respond appropriately. Have trust. Have faith. Something happens, mantra. Some problem needs solving, mantra. Because the problem is going to solve itself without you. You're just going to be the witness of the problem being solved and not having to take the doership of having solved the problem.
The problem could even get solved through you, but the idea, you do not manufacture your idea. So something comes to you, it says, a phone call needs to be made. But that thought was not created by me. It came out of nowhere. So in that case, it looks like
Good point.
just because there's doing doesn't mean there's a doer.
Exactly. You want to form ego of a doer because you'll know that that's the spontaneous action. Things are still occurring. Things are still happening. You're still doing your job, doing your duties, but you're not taking ego. You're not taking ownership as a doer for these things because you're seeing these things being done through you, but not by you.
Yeah. The key to me is like, try to create a thought, not going through memory, not going through imagination. But if you try to create an original thought, you can't do it. Because that's not how thoughts just show up. And then there's appropriate action or movement, but if you don't take responsibility for it, you don't take ownership of it.
Exactly.
It's happening. It may, in the, what do you call it, the illusory world, somebody could say, oh, well, you did this. But that's only the illusionary. If you know the truth is, you didn't, there's no you to do it. But something got done, and it's kind of hard to just. I think that the 2 levels that you're on, you're recognizing what the actual truth is, but you still have to. I mean, if you're the criminal, you're still going to get put in jail because that's what's going on the level of the movie.
Yes, but it's a disidentification by using mantra. You're not taking ownership of these things. And that's a key thing that you talked about too, because you can sit there and say, oh, I'm not the doer. But when everybody comes and says, wow, how amazing that idea was, this was so great, and this and that, that's the time for mantra too.
Yeah.
Because you're going to take ego after the fact as the doer, even though you went through it knowing you're not the doer. And then on this side, now people are saying what a great job you've done. Mantra again. That's why elation or the depression side, this desire and fear.
Yeah.
And the desire for praise, the desire for acknowledgement is very strong. And the only way is mantra, mantra, mantra. And outwardly, okay, thank you. You know, to people, because people don't really expect like ticker tape parades for every great idea you have anyway. That's, again, the mind that wants to do this. So somebody says, hey, that was a really great thing. Thank you. And then mantra, keep internally, mantra, mantra, one with my selfless self. And if you have to break mantra and a thought arises, thank you, master. I do that sometimes when like something's happened and people will be like, hey, you know, you did this really great thing and this was so wonderful and this, and I'm, thank you. Mantra, mantra, thank you, master. Thank you, master. Thank you, master. Because again, non-doership. I don't want to take ownership of any actions, any thoughts, any ideas. They can come and go, but I don't want them stuck. I don't want to form something here. Hold on, the chat popped up again.
Oh, he says, do I know what I'll think next? Mark. Some people believe science will one day explain everything.
I don't know, yeah.
I don't know.
Science is a lot for the physical world, and the physical world is all illusion. So every idea and every kind of scientific example or scientific experiment is based on the structure of illusion. So science, unless science breaks out of the bubble of illusion, every experiment and every discovery will still be in that bubble of illusory concepts. Science will never break out of the illusion.
Although there is something every year called the Science and Non-Duality Conference. They usually have it in California. And the what do you call it? The quantum scientists who are, they're like very similar or on almost the same page as the highest spiritual people. So in a way, it's coming together, because the truth is the truth. Whether you come at it from science or you come at it from spirituality, it's the same truth.
Yes. The idea, though, is that inside the dream, you're the dreamer who's the scientist, and you're making the discoveries about the fact that the dream you're dreaming is a dream, but those ideas and concepts are still inside the dream.
Yeah.
They cannot break outside of the dream, because all ideas, beliefs, and concepts are within the dream.
No.
So it doesn't all. That's why no concept, and that's why Maharaj says, please, please, please don't go following other masters and other teachers, because you're only going to confuse yourself. Because everyone has a concept that they're understanding through.
Yeah.
But the idea is, as Nisargadatta Maharaj says, nothing that is said is true. It cannot be, because everything that's said is in the illusion, using body form, therefore automatically the illusion. So all the adventures, all the scientific experiments, all the progress, all the gurus and all the, Albert Einstein type folks are all in the illusion, because in order to recognize that, you had to have body form. They're all appearing upon your spontaneous presence. Everything appears upon your spontaneous presence. So any ideas, any beliefs, anything is within the bubble of illusion. You cannot break out of the illusion until you have your own self. When the dreamer wakes up, basically. When you'll be out of the illusion, you may understand the illusion and you may feel that this is illusory, but once you leave this body form, then you'll be back to your natural state.
Well, you could look at science and spirituality. They're both entertainment, right?
Yeah, exactly. All of this it's just entertainment for the beingness. As long as you have beingness, this is the entertainment. Now, once you kind of detach from that beingness and you're seeing the beingness as part of the illusion itself, and that you're the witness of this knowing, you're the formless knower, the knowledge, and all of this is appearing on that spontaneous presence, then it starts to get much, much, much different, because you're just, this can do whatever it wants to do. It's all in the bubble of the illusion. Your entire life and everything you're doing is in that bubble of illusion. My entire life, as John Richards, everything that's happening is in that bubble for illusion. Now the question is, knowing this, are you still going to grab for things? Are you still going to be hateful for your neighbor? Are you still going to try and make something happen? Or are you going to allow the world to be totally unconcerned with the world and be with your selfless self and just know and still be able to carry on quite nicely? But you're no longer grabbing for anything, because everything, including this body, including all the ideas, all the beliefs, all the concepts, including Maharaj, including everything, is in the bubble of illusion. And that's from the grand scale to look at your daily life and say, okay, I'm out of water and I'm upset about that. But that's it, deep, 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 deep in the bubble of illusion. So why to be concerned? Anything that goes on in the illusion is illusion. Anything that goes on in your dream, Maharaj, again, the talk today, when he talked about, what if you died in your dream? If you saw yourself die in your dream, or if you saw one of your friends die in the dream, and then when you woke up, they were there. The idea is that inside the bubble of the dream, anything can happen, but the dreamer, the selfless self, the knowingness is not affected at all. All of this will come and go. All of this spontaneous illusion, this projection that you're projecting with the 5 elements that are then creating all this, and then the gunas and the energy that's moving everything around and appearing to be real, is simply in the bubble of illusion. There is nothing that is not in the bubble of illusion. Except your selfless self. There's no God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no Master. Nothing is there. All of this appears upon your spontaneous presence. So what is there to be concerned about? What is there to worry about? What is there to be angry about? If all of this appears upon spontaneous presence and is absolutely illusion, and you are refreshing your memories through mantra that yes, this is all illusion, and it does not matter at all to the selfless self. And to the totality that this is just a part of, it's just a function. Without taking an ego that I'm doing something, or all of manifestation except me.
Yeah.
And that's where the courage comes in, because that's the spontaneous conviction. You will show yourself this. On the screen of mind, you will see clearly the reality. And you are absorbing the reality the more you listen to the talks, the more you listen to bhajans, the more you read the books, the more you devote all your attention and every moment to selfless self. This is seen. That spontaneous conviction, so that I. And that I is the manifestation in totality, because it's all arising from that I. I is singular. There's no plural. There's no, there's nothing.
There was a sentence in Selfless Self that I read the other day. It really touched me. It was Maharaj speaks about when you are really there, it's living knowledge, I guess, as opposed to theoretical. And that. And he said today in that talk something about when one is with selfless self, it's fun. It was just, and it's just really there's such a qualitative difference, that living knowledge when it's just not mental at all, it's not conceptual at all. It's and it was like, I remember Jesus once in in the Gospel of St. John speaks about the living water, that rises up to eternal life. And it was the same, kind of like the same idea, actually, the living knowledge.
Yeah.
The end of Chidananda Rupa, I think, is that is whole and perfect, this is whole and perfect. From the whole and perfect, the whole and perfect becomes manifest. If the whole and perfect issues forth from the whole and perfect, even still, only the whole and perfect will remain.
Yes.
That's so. This expression, this reflection, is whole and perfect. And I guess you have to kind of like be completely there to realize that, because usually, I know I'm always finding fault with one thing or another, political situation or whatever. And I don't know, it's just, but it is, like you were saying, it's just the selfless self playing. It's like playing in all these kids, playing in all these manifestations, and it's whole and perfect as it's playing, whatever way the play may go and whatever way it may look. And it's, I guess, our duty just to kind of like break down every concept that would say one thing or another about it,
The antivirus software.
Yeah.
Yeah, the files are corrupt, as Maharaj says. The antivirus software will allow the system to start running selfless self program without any ideas, without any beliefs, without anything. And then you'll see, no matter what it looks like outside, you could turn on the news and see how the illusory world is doing. But the idea is that if you were in a dream, and in your dream there was a war going on, or in your dream, cities were having earthquakes or whatever, nothing is happening. Nothing has happened and nothing will ever happen.
Yeah, that's the title of Papaji's biography. It's called Nothing Ever Happened.
There you go.
It's 3 volumes.
There you go. Nothing has ever happened in 3 volumes.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I know someone once asked Robert Adams, why didn't you write a book? He said, or, like have a book written. And I think he said, everything I can say is in 1 paragraph.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Maharaj says, except your selfless self, there's no God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no master. What more do you want?
That's it.
That's the end of the teaching right there. Okay, everybody go home.
No, it's sort of ironic because what we all want is sort of like, something to like take care of us, or something to take care of, and not to have this burden sitting on your shoulders of like, oh, I'm responsible for this, and I did this right, and I did that wrong. And you'd think that more people would be willing to give up their burden, but it's funny because people, I guess it's a feeling of not being real or something. If you don't have any
Exactly.
then it's like, who am I if I don't have any burdens?
Exactly.
And that's scary for a lot of people,
Yes. And as far as somebody taking care of you, like Nisargadatta Maharaj says, in the womb, you weren't deciding whether the fingers were going to grow first or the toes were going to grow first, or how long your nose was going to grow, or how the blood vessels would definitely go better going this way up my head than they do spidered out. You weren't doing any of that. Everything was formed. It wasn't until you came out into the illusory world and recognized yourself as something that needed to do anything. You're going back to your child consciousness, as is constantly spoken about. The child consciousness, which was aware and in awe, and didn't have problems of work or parents or anything, because it was just aware and in awe. And didn't know enough to be afraid. There wasn't enough of you to have fear as the child. The child then had all these things added on to it, right, and watched the body grow, so it truly believed that the same consciousness that was there when this body came about is not the same that it's here. That's the belief, because you've seen your body age and you believe that, well, I'm aging. But you are not aging. The body form that you are using, the blob of goo of the 5 elements, is aging and will eventually age all the way to deterioration. But the one that was in the womb, that came into the blob, as Nisargadatta Maharaj says, in dormant condition, not aware of itself, that then became aware of itself in the body goo, the form, and then that body just progresses. But you do not progress. You don't progress. You don't age. You're timeless because you're outside of time. There's no concept of time because you're prior to any of these ideas, beliefs, or concepts. You're in the no-knowing state.
Yeah, it's kind of the process of getting educated and civilized and so-called, and then having to come full circle and drop it all.
Yeah. And the main reason that you was fear and survival, the element and the constant fear of death. Before you even knew what death was, the survival in this strange world that you were not aware, that you didn't know until you ran and bumped your head on the wall that there was any danger at all in this world. And once you discovered there was danger, you needed to acquire knowledge quickly in a fear-based state, so you didn't ask or inquire about anything that was going on. You assumed that this body was yourself and that everything it did were your doings, and that all that was happening was your experience. And you perceived the world through the little me, and were terrified because through the little me, the functioning of the totality seems like it's all against the little me, because in reality, the little me is part of a functioning and was never meant to be an individual. You know, when you view an ecosystem from the point of view of one of the elements in the ecosystem, you would seemingly say that things are against you. But when you view it as the entire ecosystem is in absolute perfect balance, if there's too many fish, that's not good. If there's too much seaweed, that's not good. If the water's not running properly because there's too many leaves or it's getting blocked, that's not good. But if you're a leaf or a fish or the seaweed, you might complain.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we have to apply that analogy to the political situation.
Yeah, it's all occurring in the illusory world.
You know, I love how the fact that, you know, you have Trump doing what he, you know, the business with women and stuff, and that may have contributed to this sea change that has happened, that where people are standing up and saying no. And then, you know, so, you know, they say God works in mysterious ways, and that's pretty darn mysterious. We elect somebody who's, you know, a predator sort of thing, and then people sort of get triggered by that, and then they're all rising up now to say no more. But it might have taken somebody who's kind of outside the loop. You just don't know the mind of God, you know. You can't get into why things happen. That's why you have to have the trust. Because, you know, eventually it's funny how things kind of turn out, even things that you would say, oh, that's terrible, but yet there's a kind of silver lining in a way.
There's story and activity for the mind.
Yeah.
And there always is. You know, if you look back in any of the presidencies or any history in time, there's always been story and activity for the mind, centering around something. Just like all these laws that everybody keeps saying are passed, and then the date is not until 2019. And, all the Obama laws that were passed that everybody said, oh, this is so terrible. But then they were all erased. But everybody was all worried and concerned about that back then. And now these laws that are scheduled for 2019, that everyone's all worried and upset about, will probably pass too. It comes and goes. It's activity and food for the mind. If there's no you will absolutely see that there's no world. There is just a bunch of forms from the 5 elements being moved around, and it's all your own self. And you can speak to yourself, whether you're splashing water on you, whether you're rude to yourself, whether you're kind to yourself, whether you happen to be waiting on yourself in a restaurant and you're the waiter and the one ordering. It's just you.
Yeah.
There's nobody else. So if something is bothering you, it's you.
Yeah. Well, this brings to mind Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, where he doesn't want to go to war, and yet
Exactly.
he is a warrior, and he is part of the cog, the giant cog. And
Yes.
so he's told to go and do your job, and that was the whole thing. That he couldn't take himself out of it and say, oh, no, I can't kill my friends and relatives. And,
Exactly.
okay, Krishna says, this is your job. And besides, they're all dead anyway.
Exactly. It's only the mind that believes it's trying to make a decision as to whether to kill or not kill. All's going to happen as it happens. And then Krishna, when he's talking to Arjuna, also says, don't go running in there and be a fierce warrior. Just do your duty.
Right.
Don't overdo it and give it to ego and be like there slashing and suddenly you're this great warrior. No, don't be a great warrior. Do your duty. What's in front of you, give that 100% and then leave it when it's finished.
Right.
And when they call you a great warrior and want to give you accolades and all this, but I did nothing. Thank you, Master.
Yeah.
And that's really, that's the thing. You can't shirk your responsibilities. Like Maharaj says, do your job, do your duties, do what's right in front of you, but remain with yourself. If things start to look challenging, remain with yourself. If things look like they're going on easy street, don't sit there and say, wow, man, work hasn't been too rough lately and everything's going good and that's going good. And no, because you're taking an eye on somebody else. And the truth is, the desire and fear principle will come as soon as I am somebody else is there. That's why Maharaj says body knowledge is painful.
Yeah, you're creating a polarity where there isn't a polarity.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Because you're creating a point on the map in which to view and judge everything from that point. Don't be a point. Be pointless.
Well, so there's no room for recriminations or, regrets and all that other stuff is part of the body knowledge, part of the taking a stand as somebody.
Exactly. If you're a formless, then regret of what? Prior to being this, was there any regret? It wasn't until you took a body and started believing that you were doing these things and believed that this body consciousness that then created this body knowledge and this form of I am a doer, I'm doing these things, this is my experience. Prior to being this, none of that was there. So how could there be regret? There's no regret prior to being this. Prior to taking a beingness and a body, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Regret came along with the body and will dissolve along with the body. Anger came along with the body, it'll dissolve along with the body. Fear came along with the body and dissolve along with the body. Prior to being this, prior to belief in a body, where a body consciousness was then believed in, mind, ego, intellect, subtle organs began working, and judgment started happening from a position. Prior to being this was the first thing. None of these, all of those that were mentioned appeared upon spontaneous presence. and all of them will dissolve along with the body. And mantra allows you to see that and live that knowledge now. Hold on.
Would you say you can't help but act with love, or is saying love making a concept out of being good?
All actions are spontaneous actions. There's no love, and all of that would come after the action, or you say good action, bad action based on this or that, or love, like I'm feeling this feeling of love. The love is the oneness because you're not separate. You know that everything is your own self. So how can you fear? There's nothing but yourself. The love that's talked about is just because it's you. It's the understanding. Your own self. You love yourself. The love to be is the not such a good thing that causes all the troubles and all the problems. But all actions are spontaneous actions. So there's no in living the knowledge and living the experience, nothing comes that can be clung on to. No one is there that you're trying to get anything from. It's just a scene in the moment, and you behaving in the moment as and per the needs and requirements of the moment. Because you're not trying to get anything, and you're not trying to run away from anything. No desires are being attached to. Desires may still flow through, the consciousness or whatever, but you're not involved or attached to the body consciousness. So whatever's going on in the body consciousness, you really are unconcerned. And whatever's going on in the world or the position of where you are right now, the things that are appearing in front of you, you do whatever you need to do your job, do your duties 100% in that moment. But there's not a story of a body consciousness that's doing something and how this will turn out, or expectations or fear or any of these things. There won't be, because there's not a you, so there can't be other. It's just a flow. Mantra, mantra, mantra. Remain with yourself with self. Mantra in every moment. Any moment that, let's put it this way, once you've been mantraing for a while, like Maharaj says, in the beginning, you have to really concentrate on mantra. And then after that, when you're one with yourself with self and you're one with the mantra, there won't be an experiencer. And if there is, then that means you're not one with yourself with self and you need to mantra.
Or it's that you don't recognize that you lose the connection somehow because
your attention.
Right.
Your attention and your belief is going out. You're starting to believe in world and believe less in yourself. But belief very quickly, spontaneously. That's why the mantra, if you're mantra, and somebody says, so, would you like fries or this or that? And you're making choices and all of this, but mantra's running.
Yeah.
Mantra's running. When something happens and the heat gets turned up and you start to feel like, ooh, the only reason that this is appearing is because I'm not one with my selfless self through mantra. I just need to remind myself to go back to mantra. Master says the world is illusion. That's what Maharaj says to clear it. Whatever's happening right here, Master says the world is illusion. Accept your selfless self. No God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no Master. Nothing is there. I remind myself if I need to. Then mantra. It's like, just paused for a brief moment. Oh, I got involved in the world again. I just noticed that. Remain back with my selfless self, back with mantra. What I don't want to do is see something and get involved in it and then create a me that's thinking and doing and trying to figure it out. Because I'll forget myself very quickly and get involved in the illusion there, just like that.
Right. It's because, the suffering comes from when you're not with the program. If you see the actual reality, then there isn't the suffering because it comes. And the turning up the heat is when self is coming up to remind you.
Yes.
So in
Because
that way, there's a kind of perfection in it. There's a kind of
Yeah.
perfection in how or intelligence in how it's all unfolding.
it's absolute harmony. And the turning up the heat is because, it's like levels in a video game. When you're on level 1, at first when you start playing, oh man, you're just getting beaten and all this kind of stuff. But after you played for a while, level 1 you clear very quickly. Now level 2, okay, it's a little rough. Level 2, you clear very quickly. Now level 3, it's a little rough, you clear very quickly. Same kind of thing with mantra, with your experiences that you have throughout the day. Some things will be very easy to mantra and remain one with your selfless self. Then it'll turn up the heat just a little bit. Something will get, and why does it turn up the heat? Because it's a thought or an idea that's poking at something personal. Something personally involved that has something to do, and emotions then also will come in. But see, emotions, thoughts, ego, and all this starts to churn. But before it starts to churn, mantra, then you'll witness the arising of this churning from the absolute stillness and disregard it.
Or disable the habitual responses.
Yes. But you're not doing it. Remember, it's selfless self that you are, not you in this body form that's doing this thing. It's not a mind, ego, intellect, or an intellectual type thing. It's spontaneous.
Yeah.
Remaining with mantra without thinking, without doing anything. Something has caused my attention to go out. Mantra. I continue mantra, and it just runs all the time. You wake up in the morning, and mantra's running. And you start to do this and do that, but then you might look at the news and it says some terrible thing is happening. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. Mantra, selfless self, mantra. World is illusion. Just like Nisargadatta Maharaj and Ramakant Maharaj have said, in waking up in the morning, it's just that sense you are. How to remain with that sense you are and not add anything to it? Mantra. Because then you can remain with that sense you are without adding any concepts onto it and move about quite nicely. And then if you stay with that, you say, okay, tomorrow morning, here I am, I've woken up. It's like, okay. And mantra, 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 mantra. Even if the first thought that comes to you is, I'm going to mantra, that's an I am somebody else, but it's created to erase additional concepts and to keep that buffer there so that no concepts can be added on. Mantra, mantra, brushing my teeth, and then all of a sudden mantra's just running. Then I'll notice, like maybe traffic happens and it'll pop. Oh, traffic. Oh, mantra, I'm noticing this traffic. In order to be noticing this traffic, there has to be a noticer, an experiencer being formed. Aha, time for mantra. I want to remain in that state of when I first wake up in the morning until I lay my head down at night. And all throughout the day, there will be things that will allow me to use mantra and remain with my selfless self so that I can remain in that state of first waking up in that you are before the world. Then even the waking up and the sleeping will be in that same state of you are before world.
Yeah, and the reward is peace, stillness, right?
It's, there's no reward because there's no one there, but that's where the fun comes in, like Maharaj would say. The fun is that this I don't know, it's just,
yeah.
You're interacting with your own self in a world that's projected from your own self without fear because there's no other and there's no you in it.
Mm-hmm. And you actually might be able to feel compassion for the suffering of, people who are thinking that their actions are real and that the world is real, and you feel that, that there's suffering going on out there. It's like the bodhisattva or whatever, thinking, this is I mean, not that there's anybody, that just arises.
But I don't know, because without an I am somebody else forming, there can't be other. So there wouldn't be the idea of someone suffering. There would just be a script in the moment without any form or content going on in it.
Mm. Okay.
There's like, it's as if you're an actor. Maharaj has said this before, and you don't know any lines, but you have this teleprompter in here, or not teleprompter, what do you call it? Like a little guy who's whispering in your ear, like what to say, what to do, but you're not involved in any of it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, say good morning. Good morning. Oh, good morning. I'm doing my emails. Respond to this email. Okay, respond to that. You know what I'm saying? It's literally as if you have been hired in a role and you are a 5-star actor, but you're such a good actor that the lines are being fed to you and you don't have any idea what the movie is about. Now, you might have feelings coming in about something, but the lines are being fed and just spoken, and you're hearing the speaking at the same time it's being spoken. So you don't get confused as to who the speaker and listener is, because you're hearing this speaking coming from here, and there's just speaking and listening. Because here's another form that's here. You haven't been given a line or a script to say, this is who this character is that you're talking to, and you need to talk to them in this way, or do this, or do that. And remember, the last time you talked to them, they were really having a bad day, so you might want to cheer them up. It's not like that. There's a form right in front of you, and lines are being read that you are listening to, and that other form is then speaking, and you're listening to that. And it's just a beautiful symphony.
Yeah. And all the feelings are in it too. So. You know.
Yes. But again, it's as the actor, like the actors that are acting with you in this drama, you don't know them. You don't know anything about them. You haven't put a story on them. Like I said, you didn't sit there and say, wow, last time I saw Joe, he was really bummed out about, something that happened at his house or on vacation and this and that. A, maybe I should avoid Joe, or B, maybe I should cheer Joe up. It's not like that, because you're not there to form this thought train, this I am somebody else that's approaching another. It's just speaking. You're listening to the speaking as it's spoken.
And then the appropriate speech comes out, right?
Seemingly, yes. Because you're not thinking about appropriate. It's not. I mean, you don't just go up to somebody and say, "Hey, F you," or what. It's not like that. It's just because it's your own self. You just know this.
Yeah.
Even if that self, again, the example of being on the train, somebody steps on your foot, looks you right in the eye, smiles, doesn't care that they stepped on your foot, but now it's on you. You understand it's on you to respond that something outside of you has happened, or remain with yourself where 5 seconds later you've forgotten the whole ordeal. It's only when the mind takes it as this guy just stepped on your foot and smiled.
Yeah.
Who the hell does he think he is?
Yeah,
But there's not a...
Yeah, that's the creative big time.
Exactly. Instead, it's going to be a momentary passing thing and an encounter with yourself in another form where neither form had anything inside of it that could do anything to the other.
Yeah, so there's no victims or perpetrators.
No, it cannot be, because it's just the electricity that's providing the movement. Like we were talking about electricity earlier. It's just electricity that's providing the movement.
Yeah.
And the electricity is working through the conditioning, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Through the ideas and beliefs and the concepts, through the conditioning and the concepts that this form has believed itself as a separate individual experiencing. And many of yourself out there have experienced things as if they were the individual experiencing them. It's still the selfless self. You know that. And the selfless self that you are knows that. But the conditioning that's being seen in front of you in another form will not behave like it knows that. But you know that even that, because it's all in the illusion, is all illusion. So remain with yourself. It's all about you. There are no others. Somebody steps on your foot, your selfless self is testing the knowledge, the spiritual knowledge. Like Maharaj says about being spat on. I don't know if I would deal with that, honestly, but spat on 50 times and then takes the guy out for lunch. What does that show?
Yeah.
It shows that it's very forgotten quickly. Forgive and forget instantaneously, because there's the knowing that it's just another form and there's not a possibility of someone in that form doing something to me. This is a test of my spiritual knowledge. I get spat on 50 times, but it's a test of my own self. And when I pass that test, pow, I take him out for lunch. He's no longer my enemy. He's no longer separate and apart from. I'm one with my selfless self.
Yeah,
That's what breaks down the conditioning of in the other, maybe. It's like, turning the other cheek, kind of, I don't know, something like
Jesus
that.
said that. You forgive them 70 times 70.
Exactly.
7 times 77 or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what that means, yeah.
Absolutely.
But you really have to not be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, somebody spits on you 50 times. I don't know.
You have to not be there at all.
Or when somebody holds a gun to your head and you're not worried.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, there are many Buddhist monks that let the Chinese kill them. Huh. Indeed.
I don't know. Well, enough for tonight?
Oh, yeah, it's 9 o'clock already.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Okay, thank you for showing up.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Hasta luego.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, the Westerner says that.